in Western Australia, demonstrating the capacity of our local defence industry and Australian workers supplying that sovereign capability for our Australian Navy and our Australian Defence Force in Australia's interest, which is so very important in the times that we find ourselves in today. I've had the sort of followed the journey of this vessel during my time in Parliament, in opposition and in government. I was able to walk through the shipyards at Osborne, seeing it being built, being brought together, and myself and the Deputy Prime Minister, Richard Marles, had a tour of her only a few weeks ago down at HMAS Stirling. And it's wonderful to see the great capability that it brings, not only in terms of its capacity to travel further and to do more, but also the way in which it looks after our most important capability in the Australian Defence Force, our people. The living quarters are much better. It provides them with greater safety, but also a better amenity when at sea, which means they are best able then to perform their very important task that they undertake. The delivery of these patrol vessels is all part of what we delivered as the Albanese Labor government with our surface fleet review, enhancing our surface fleet capabilities being built by Australians in particular. And of course, being built in South Australia and then being built in Western Australia is part of our commitment to continuous naval shipbuilding here in Western Australia, as we will be doing in South Australia as well. That ensures that we maintain the important defence industry and worker capability instead of the stop-start circumstances that we've seen in the past. It means we're more efficient at delivering that capability going forward. It means we provide that job certainty and industry certainty going forward. And that's important because it maintains our sovereign capability to be able to provide for our Defence Force and our national defence well into the future. It's a great day for the ship's company today. It's been quite a while since we have commissioned a first-in-class vessel into the Royal Australian Navy. It's very special for them being able to be part of HMAS Arafura's ship company, but it's also important for the families. We really thank our Navy personnel for everything they do, but I also want to acknowledge their families as well. When our crews deploy to sea, they are away for some substantial time sometimes, and of course sometimes not contactable either. And things still have to go on back at home, and the families give up their personnel member to serve our greater national interest. And we recognise that can be hard, and we do seek to support them as much as we can, and I really want to acknowledge their sacrifice and their support in the national interest, supporting their sailors on our vessels as they do, because it makes the world of difference to what we're able to do in providing for our national defence. So I really acknowledge the crews, the great work that they will do. I know they're very excited to be able to have their vessel now commissioned today, and we acknowledge the families. And I also want to thank everyone involved in the construction of the vessel as well, bringing it to fruition as a great example of an Australian-built naval capability. I'll let Chief of Navy say a few words before we get on to questions as well.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning all. This is what we like to call a great Navy Day. It's always better to be commissioning a warship than farewelling one. And in the context of being a maritime nation, as the custodians of the third largest exclusive economic zone in the world, patrol vessels like these are critical naval assets. They enable us to patrol that vast ocean realm, and a ship that's 1,600 tonnes in size is replacing ships that were only 300 tonnes in size. So much better seakeeping capabilities, much better endurance, much better patrol capabilities, and therefore a significant improvement for the Royal Australian Navy. As the Minister said, ultimately there will be 6 of these. This is the first of class. As with any first of class, it takes a little while to iron out the issues, and we've deliberately stepped through a process of eliminating any engineering risks to our personnel as the highest priority. So what you see behind me in HMAS Arafura is the product of a significant amount of work. It's a ship built by Australians from Australian steel in Australian shipyards, and now crewed by Australians serving under the Australian-wide ensign in the Royal Australian Navy. So a very proud day for us. I know from talking to the sailors, they're really pleased with this ship. I've served in submarines principally. The living conditions on here are extraordinary by comparison, so they should be pretty pleased. And I look forward to them coming together as a team over the next few weeks and being certified to conduct those operations. We've got a few months of sea trials now in front of us. before we let the crew loose. But I have every confidence that they will achieve all of those certification milestones, and I look forward to going to sea with her at some point in the near future. Thank you.
Any questions?
Minister, these were built to replace the Armadales, I believe. Can you talk us through, obviously, it can travel a lot further, you mentioned, but can you talk us through how it's better in some of the other capabilities?
Well, certainly let Chief Navy get into the tic-tacs on that, but as we've already mentioned, it can travel further than the vessels that it's replacing. They are larger, they can hold more, which means they can have more adaptable capability on board. You have the capacity to be able to deploy the rib boats out the back whilst moving, which gives it a greater degree of flexibility in terms of other ships it may have to engage with when performing its work. All of which is about that expanded capability and flexibility that it brings. You know, as a larger boat, it's able to withstand a greater sea state as well. It means, as the Chief of Navy mentioned, you know, the area that it has to patrol in terms of our exclusive economic zone is huge. And being able to perform that task, be able to travel at speed while doing that when necessary, and being able to do that and also engage with our near neighbours when required to provide that additional assistance that it can now provide that may not have been able to be done as easily with the boats that it's replacing, is an incredible enhancement to its capability, and certainly being able to take the extra crew, be able to look after them for a longer journey, a longer voyage, and keep them well while they're doing that is an incredibly important addition to capability as well, because one of the great limiting factors of any capability in the Defence Force is going to be the people that operate it. Making sure they're looked after and best protected and supported when they're away at sea is incredibly important, and this vessel does that very well. But I'll let Chief of Navy get into some of the more technical aspects of that enhanced capability.
As you can tell, the Minister's spent a bit of time around these ships and around the Navy. Look, what I'll add to that is 3 sea boats compared to 2 on the Armadale class, so a little bit more flexibility there. Big flight deck back aft for uncrewed systems, and a flexible mission deck below that. So she's got a few more tools in her toolbox, tricks up her sleeve. She's also better equipped for international engagement. As an Australian warship flying the Australian White Ensign, she enjoys sovereign immunity in the ports of the world representing Australia. I like them to high commissions of the high seas. And we have a strong role in supporting our foreign affairs missions around the Southwest Pacific and the region through international engagement. So a vessel like this can enter a port, it can host activities in support of the High Commission or the ambassador in location. And that's an important capability for us, especially as we try to double down on diplomacy and deterrence in our region during these extraordinarily uncertain times. So I think it's a much more flexible, much more capable ship. And the last point the Minister made, the habitability again, that underwrites your fatigue load for the ship's company. So if you're serving in a small ship that's rocking and rolling a lot and is constantly moving, that has a different fatigue load on the ship's company over time compared to something that's much more comfortable like this.
You sort of touched on it a bit earlier, but once at sea, what's Arafura's main tasks? Will it be patrolling the border?
Principally, she's been acquired for constabulary operations. So that's fisheries surveillance, it's border protection operations like we've been conducting with Operation Sovereign Borders. So all the contemporary activities that patrol boats have done for decades. But in addition, because of her extra size and capacity, she's got the reach to be able to go into the Southwest Pacific, partner with our Pacific family nations and neighbours, and to support those other diplomatic roles as well.
In terms of manpower, is it as powerful, or does it have those fighting capabilities if we're faced with anything?
No, I think some commentators suggest this thing should be packed with missiles. That's what we use surface combatants for. This is a patrol craft. It does constabulary operations. It's purposely designed for that and fit for that purpose.
It's also designed, I think I read, to have the capability to expand into things like mine hunting or surveying. Is that part of the plans just yet, or is it just something up the sleeve for future use?
That's a really good question. And the answer is a bit of both. There are some organic capabilities that we can deploy now, or we will be able to deploy once we get the ship through a full certification period. Having the 2 over-the-side seaboat operation options plus the stern launch and recovery opens up a bunch of new opportunities for us. There are navies that are operating uncrewed surface vessels from launch and recovery systems like that. and that massive flight deck means that uncrewed aerial vehicles for over-the-horizon surveillance and reconnaissance, all of those things come into play with a ship of this design.
And what's the plan now? You mentioned there's some trials going to happen. Well, once those are done, is it the northern border it's going to head to, or?
I would expect that once she goes through a full certification period and the command of the Australian fleet reports that the ship and the ship's company and the sustainment system are ready to go, then we'll look to force assign her to Operation Sovereign Borders, to Maritime Border Command in the first instance. I do want to show her off though. I'd like her to go overseas, whether it's Southwest Pacific or Singapore, Indonesia, and all of that's possible at the same time.
And you mentioned there were some wrinkles that had to be ironed out. I think there might have been an issue with fire protection or something. Does that mean that once, now that those are sorted, the next 4 that are being built now can come online a bit quicker?
That's correct. As the Minister said, continuous naval shipbuilding is something you stick at. This is a first of class. We haven't built this ship in Australia before, and it's based on an overseas design. When we compared the overseas design against the Australian regulatory framework, which is administered by authorities such as the Australian Maritime Safety Authority and Comcare, when we compared the design against their requirements, there were some modifications that had to be made, and you mentioned structural fire protection was one of them. A great example is moving the fire pump out of the engine room. Most fires at sea occur in the engine room, and the first thing we do is isolate fuel and power to the engine room in that instance. So we had to make some adjustments, particularly around assured fire protection for the ship's company. So we were very thorough about that. It took a bit of time. We worked with AMSA and the regulators, and we're very comfortable that we've resolved all of those issues. They were retrofitted to this ship in build because we were already in construction when some of those were identified, but they have already been incorporated in the build plan for the remaining ships.
Just further to that question, Defence will concede the problem-plagued frigate program is causing issues with Navy capabilities. Do you believe Australian shipbuilding needs to step up?
So could you repeat that question?
It's a little bloated, sorry.
Yeah.
Defence would concede the problem-plagued frigate program is causing issues with Navy capabilities. Do you believe Australian shipbuilding needs to step up?
So I'm not sure which frigate program you're talking about.
Question for my colleague.
Okay.
Doesn't make sense.
Well, what I would say is that we have 3 frigate programs running at the moment, the Anzac class frigate program, and we saw 5 of those underway earlier this year involved in the PLA Task Group Circumnavigation of Australia. 5 of the 7 underway at the same time. So I wouldn't concede there's any problems with that frigate program. The Hunter class frigate program is on schedule, on budget down in Adelaide. That's a big ship. That's the biggest surface combatant we've built here in Australia, and again, it's the first of class for us. But I certainly wouldn't characterise that as anything other than having gone through some teething problems. That's now on schedule and going well. And the productionisation down there is world class. They are learning lessons and achieving quality standards in Adelaide that are being exported back to the United Kingdom. So I think the shipyard workers in Adelaide are doing an outstanding job. And the 3rd frigate program is the general purpose frigate program, C3000, and we're preparing advice for government on that program at the moment.
The modifications of the OPVs, is the Navy happy to take responsibility for these delays and sort of cost outs that came about from these obviously necessary modifications?
I think we've worked through with the shipbuilder, and I think Navy had a role to play in terms of picking up some of these things a little earlier than what we did, and we've learnt some lessons from that, and I don't shy away from that. We've been meticulous. I've been in the role for 3 years now, and I'm one of the people who went to see government and said, hey, look, we're going to slow things down and make some changes. So I think we need to recognise that shipbuilding is a national enterprise. It involves Navy, it involves industry, it involves government, it involves our education system, and if we're going to truly succeed at continuous naval shipbuilding, we've got to make sure it's continuous so that we learn these lessons once and we pay them forward. Every time we start with a new program, that's when all the risk is. And that's not me talking, that's all the external reviews that we've had of shipbuilding in this country. So I'm pleased to say that we've resolved those issues. We've worked really hard with industry to get to where we are today. And I've been really happy with the response. And I'll shout out as well to Lursen, but also to BAE and ASC, who provided shipyard workers in Adelaide to get the work done here. And that's the kind of culture that we want to establish here if we're going to succeed at continuous naval shipbuilding. So not walking away from the challenges, but the proof's in the pudding, and it's nice to finally be here, and I look forward to the other 5 ships joining Arafura in the next few years. Thank you very much.
We do have a program that we need to meet. Sorry, gentlemen and guys. We do have the opportunity just to get a couple of lines from the commanding officer, just in his personal reflections for the ship commissioning today before everyone goes up to the cake cutting. So, sir, if I can get you to come over. Thanks. Sorry.
Question for me: can Australia adequately defend itself with our current capability?
Closer to the mic. And I suspect your question.
It's probably going to be more about the personal reflections of the commissioning of the ship today, rather than strategic.
Yeah, the strategic level question's obviously best for the chief. Yep.
Oh, tell us about Arafura has been a long time coming. How does it feel to finally get it commissioned?
Yeah, it has been a long time, and a lot of the crew have been here for up to 3.5 years. For those of us that have been posted here for the longest period of time, it's been a lot of excitement building over those years. We've got a lot of hard work that's gone into developing all the procedures of how we'll operate the ship, and then the majority of the crew managed to sail the ship from Adelaide across to Perth, and it was one of the, for its displacement, best performing ships I've ever had the pleasure to serve on. So the handling characteristics, the crew habitability, the services it can provide to us as the crew, but also what we in the future will be able to use that platform for, are really next level, and something that I've never had the pleasure of working with in the Royal Australian Navy for a patrol vessel.
And we've heard a few times about the habitability and how great it is. Can you give us some specifics? What makes it so much better than some of the other boats you might have been on?
So I think you'll be able to get some footage later today, I believe, and you'll be able to see firsthand the quality of the accommodation on board, the galley on board, the messing facilities. If I was to compare that to some of the frigates that I served on 20 years ago when I first joined, where you might have 60 sailors living in a mess, on here you'll have up to 10. So you can imagine, if you were one of those sailors, that the creature comforts that you're going to have when you compare 60 versus 10, it's significant.
We hear the ship is a lover, not a fighter. Do you prefer the more diplomatic sort of missions, or have you served on a more sort of artillery-based sort of?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can probably see from the regalia on my chest here that I've had a range of operations that I've served on. Everything from peacetime, supporting the Government of Australia internal to Australia. COVID was the most recent for me, where we were supporting the state government as well as the federal government in our responses, all the way through to combat operations, all the way back in the Iraq war in 2003. So I've served across all of that. Do I have a preference? I will do what I'm asked to do and what I've signed on to do. Yep.
And is this your first time skippering?
It is, yeah.
What does it mean to you?
Yeah, so you can imagine the pride I have today, walking on the gangway for the first time, getting piped on as the CO of a commissioned warship, being able to raise that white ensign and being formally recognised as an Australian warship for the first time was probably the most proud time I've had in my service, and it was certainly a very proud time for the crew as well.
And can we just quickly just get you to say your title?
Yep, so my name is Lieutenant Commander Mark Beecroft, the Commanding Officer of HMAS Arafura. Very proud to say that for the first time as well. Thank you.
Congrats, Mark.
Thank you.
Cheers.